So I had the topic symbolic death, allegory, and identity. And the first photographer that I looked at was Cohen Wessing. He was a Dutch photographer and he focused on post-Second War Latin America and the effects that had lasted into these countries. The Indelible Image is an exhibition of a collection of some of his work that focused on the effects of post-war. His symbolism of death is captured through the pain and the hurt of these people and their expressions. In these photos, he doesn't capture literal death, at least in the ones that I'm presenting on, but more so the pain and the hurt of the people and their expressions and kind of the death of the human spirit. Um, there's the death of the human innocence, especially in this photo in particular. You see this little girl's face and she stares up at you with these almost dead looking eyes of knowing something that she knows that she shouldn't have known, especially at this young of age. So I think there's a lot of symbolic death within these, especially within the faces of the people. Their life that they had once known of happiness is now eradicated by these guns and these people coming in tanks. Next, we'll look at Michael Wolff. He really took a look at large cities and the dynamics of them. In a series, Tokyo Compression, he looked at the ways that people are crammed into these trains. And I think it represents the death of our space as humans and how these megacities have decayed our connection to nature. Looking at these photos, these people look almost dead on the train. Although they are alive, their bodies look limp and lifeless while being smashed to the windows. And I think that is really symbolic of the effects that large cities and lots of urban landscape have on our spirits. It kind of just decays a little bit of that flicker that we have. So I think in these photos, they really represent the death probably of our human spirit. And then lastly, we'll look at Miwa Yanagi, and I'm probably really pronouncing her name wrong. She is a Japanese photographer still practicing today. She examines female stereotypes in Japan in her photography, especially in her work Elevator Girls. This work examines the patriarchy of the Japanese society and the jobs that these girls did operating the elevators in Japanese department stores. And I think that her work symbolizes the death of these women's identity and of their self. They're meant to be this cookie cutter idea of what the system said they should be, and kind of rids them all of their own personality and own personal identity, which could definitely crush one's spirit. And I think I'll go back to the first photo here. We literally see these women kind of melting into a pool of red, and what I interpret it as blood. So I think that is a really huge symbolic representation of death. And I think it means maybe that these women are dying inside because of the boxes they're confined to. That's kind of how I interpreted it, but we even see these shapes here that they're forming into after, which is really interesting. Kind of see this repetition of red as well. And here you see them all kind of like in a glass container for people to view while on the escalator and the walking platform. And here you see this woman's face in front looking up almost as if in wonder. And I wonder too if that isn't a representation of her thinking, what could life be if I wasn't stuck here? You can see some of the other women's faces kind of looking down, not really pondering much. It almost seems like they're kind of lifeless in a sense as well. And then here I have the bibliography. The first three basically are just information that I had pulled from these websites, and then I go on to list the photographs in order.